content is for informational and educational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever by Draper Gorin Blockchain, aka DGB, the presenter, or other associated parties for the content being provided. Please do your own due diligence and seek proper counsel.
Boom. What is up,
Morning.
friends? Good morning, dude. If this counts as a meeting, this is, I just looked it up while the intro was up. This would be my 5th meeting of the day. I've been like back to back since 7:30 in the morning our time, and I haven't even had my coffee yet. I told you, I texted you, I said, hey, give me a few minutes before we go on. I'm going to go make my coffee and then we'll start. I didn't do it. I did not even have enough time. So yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
There's been, there's been a lot of things going on in the last week.
For sure.
Last week was a lot of fun. Getting John from Lunar Crush up here last minute. It was Ethereum ETF day. Now we had this time around, right? If we're going to jump right into your goofy hat, is
after that speech, I had to bring a hat out. I mean, like,
but okay. Try and be try and be totally honest, not just it with your number go up crypto
treasury buying Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, right? And whether you're me and you hate the guy, I mean, I don't like any politicians, but I especially don't like him being totally and I don't
enjoy being lied to, though. You know, I mean,
I'm not.
We'll see.
I don't like. Yeah, I don't like hypocrisy. And
well, you know what's going to happen? We're going to put this bill out there, and then some Democrats are going to shoot the bill down.
Well,
and then it's not. And then there's not going to be any Bitcoin treasury.
There's a few silver linings, I think, of everything. But where I was going to ask you first is, you watched the whole thing. I watched the whole thing. It is historic because the person who most people believe, whether you like him or not, is going to be the next president, went to the Bitcoin conference. Just that alone is pretty radical. I think that RFK had some awesome things, but he set expectations way too high for people that were like, there's going to be, the government's going to be buying Bitcoin every day, and we're changing to a Bitcoin standard, like people.
But at least he was specific on what he was going to do.
Because he knows what he's talking about. That's the thing. Okay, so here's what the question I was going to ask you.
If RFK was in president, I mean, that would be huge. That would be huge based off what his plan.
The thing is, anybody who disagrees with him that calls RFK a nut job for this thing, or he's crazy for this, just like we call politicians whatever. I've never heard anyone go, well, he's dumb as a rock. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, even the things you disagree with him on, he was a lawyer, right? And he whatever. Trump said things off the teleprompter that were amazing. That if, Joe Biden said this tomorrow as the sitting president, we'd all, be wearing diapers right now. We'd be like so stoked. But he said them, but then in between said some things, in my opinion, that were very like condescending and stupid, right? And he did exactly what happened at the Republican convention, because everyone on CNN was like, he's a changed man. He's going to be amazing. He's going to unite this country. And then he shit on everyone for an hour,
I'm going to say real quick, RFK is good for Bitcoin. Trump is good for crypto.
Because he said the word crypto a lot? I don't believe that at all. I think here's what I think. I think that he doesn't know what the hell any of it is. It's clear.
He's got some NFTs out there.
He knows he
can make money.
He knows that every scammer in the industry knows, right? Like, oh, this is free money falling from the sky if I'm good at marketing, which he's good at, right? So he can sell a product, right? But he ended it like he did some things that were meant to be like, man, you guys are all the big IQ people, your big brains, you're this and that. And then he ended the whole thing with like, and good luck with your Bitcoin and your crypto, whatever you're playing with. Like he just threw it out there, and it was like a grandpa that's like, I trust you, son. Whatever the hell that is, like it was
Other
like
than the one Consensus coin, I wonder how much Bitcoin Trump actually owns. Because we know that Robert F. Kennedy, he bought 21 Bitcoin after winning the Monsanto's case, which is pretty cool.
that's really fucking cool. What do you mean? That's really cool.
Really cool. How much does Trump own? I have no clue. Hopefully he does have some. I have a feeling he has more crypto than he has Bitcoin.
So see, this is where I wanted to go with part of the conversation. Greg had a great point. Okay, Greg, if you're online right now and you want to join us, you could text me and I'll text you the StreamYard link. It'd be great.
And I'll double up with that. I think Trump's favorite crypto is probably USDC.
Sure. Yeah, why not? Right? Every politician that wants the dollar to be strong should want that. But here, okay, so what Greg said, one advantage of one's feelings about Donald Trump or RFK, we may be at the beginning of a meaningful push to depoliticize crypto thanks to the real power presented by crypto voters in swing. I think that's a little bit like it's I don't want to say utopian. It's like it's optimistic, more optimistic. Like I would love that for it to be depoliticized. I think what just happened is it became insanely political. Ooh, Greg's I'm texting Greg the stream.
I think it's all intentional.
So I think the beauty of this is Trump, at least. Here's the thing though. What we think and how we feel is that he made a huge thing by showing up and by doing it. Does anyone else in the world know about it? Okay, here's the thing. I'm gonna text my friend.
My Facebook friends will
I'm gonna text. No, here's the thing. I have a friend who is much more conservative than I am. He's he's a veteran. He owns guns. And he owns some crypto. I'm gonna text him and be like, "Did you know that Trump spoke at the crypto conference?" If he knew about it, that's a big deal. If he doesn't know that even happened, he's just pandering to us. But the silver lining is he panders to us. He raises a bunch of money from like the Winklevosses and people like that, right? If his pandering to our industry was enough to make Democrats feel threatened, right? And I think he did in some ways, because you saw the day he spoke, I think it was 20 something Democratic Congress people basically like wrote a letter to the Democratic National Committee basically saying, change your stance on crypto. If that was enough to move the needle, we will get somewhere in the middle of what we want and what the largest banks and stuff want, right? Greg is joining us. Greg Zoom is like his bio said. Here, we can do the zoomed out one now that there's three of us. Although some things rub your camera or something. It looks like
this is probably just an artifact of the fact this laptop is vintage from 2014. So
okay. Hold on, let me move my cyborg eyes now, because now I got this thing on my face.
The best this camera can do is 720p, I think.
All right, it's all good. Oh no, it looks clear now. I think it was just the connection at first. Let me hide this, this overlay thing. So we'll throw this one up. So anyway, I think that what's going to happen is things have to change, right? The largest financial institutions in the world are now aligned for those things to change. So miraculously, I've been saying this even from before Trump said a positive thing about crypto. Miraculously, at some point soon, all of the biggest players, which they have now, the BlackRock CEO, Jamie Dimon, all these people have changed their mind about crypto. And miraculously, the people who they donate the most money to which is politicians on both sides of the aisle, but especially the ones on the Financial Services Committee. And because we have a Democrat in power, those are Democrats today. Those people will start to change their mind, right? All of a sudden, Brad Sherman won't be so anti-crypto. Elizabeth Warren will back off. You know, in some ways, they have some certain posturing and pandering to do, but
I assuming she survives John Deaton, right?
As much as that's an interesting thing, right? I don't know if she can lose her seat where she is, but again, term limits, right? There should be term limits for these people also. This is insane that career politicians could just have ineffective careers and just shit on us like for a living.
Well, and I suppose I should probably upfront be clear about my position on all the politicians, and it's that I'm an infrastructure, so I don't have the luxury of alienating any of the potential users of our service. So I don't take a side, but I do appreciate the importance of what they can do to us, right? Like, just because I'm not interested in them specifically doesn't mean they're not interested in me specifically. Yeah. So I pay close attention, and while I may have preferences that I don't articulate, the fact that we're on the conversation, I think, is important.
And going back to the thing, I started going down my rabbit hole, and then we saw Greg give that awesome comment, so we brought him on. But Rankin, how did you try to be honest about the whole speech and the whole thing? I know you're always honest, but I know you're bullish about crypto stuff. So
Trump was not impressive. Trump was not impressive as a speaker.
Right. And that bums me out, even though I go into it knowing that I don't like him, but then I want it to be better, right? I want to see like the debates, the Trump Biden.
Like, you almost wish that Cynthia Lumens came in after RFK spoke, and it would have been beautiful, right? And I feel like she picked up and made up for what Trump lacked on.
Or if they could have, like, if while he was still on stage, he finished. Like, the thing is, he could have given the best 10-minute prepared speech the crypto industry has ever seen, right? But he gave an hour and a half of dropping things in that a lot of the single issue voters that love him love to hear. But if he understood how anti-military spending the crypto community is, but then he talks about, the army and what he's doing for them and stuff like that, it's like
he's incorporating everybody. He actually did a good job at that, right? He incorporated the crypto people.
He incorporated into his normal thing of pandering to single issue voters in each category, right?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
But he's added.
I think we got to.
He didn't have to bring that stuff up. He didn't have to bring up how the Christians love him and will do anything. He made these weird.
Want to make sure everybody's covered. So, and that's exactly what he did. I mean, he covered crypto. He covered how stable coins would make the dollar strong. He covered how they would save in Bitcoin and how he could get rid of Gary Gensler, even though you wouldn't fire him at all. You just appoint somebody else new. Like, he was just covering everybody's concerns.
But
the question is why.
You just said in 15 seconds all of the things that took him an hour and a half to tell us, or an hour.
The question is why. To me, I think the interesting thing here is, what exactly is it that these other constituencies have to say about crypto or influence in the domain of crypto that may actually impact whether or not showing up there is a net win for a politician, right? Like, because one thing you can't accuse any politician of is not being effectively calculating about how they show their face.
Well,
right?
So
what do you say to the
think
constituents that don't like it?
He needs camera time.
Camera time in a group of very wealthy people who are really pissed off at the current administration, right? They don't have to be in his party. They don't have to like him. He knows that they hate the current administration for good reason. They have a lot of money. And on top of it, he made weird statements about, like, maybe we put Jamie Dimon as the Treasury Secretary, maybe the BlackRock guy which is so funny because this would be like the most anti-crypto thing in the world. It would be you know why Elizabeth Warren is who she is publicly about our industry is because JP Morgan and the largest financial institutions in the world are her largest donors.
Yeah.
So this is what pisses me off about the
And
people
she only
who are
knows
just, like,
one narrative, right?
blindly gonna vote for Trump because he said crypto out loud, right? Like, or Bitcoin. But
So
anyway, but here's wait, one quick thing, and then I'm gonna shut up. But what I'm saying is that's why he speaks to this room. It makes a lot of sense for him to speak to the room for that reason. And but this is exactly what politicians do. They find the single issue voters they can cater to, tell them what they want to hear, and most of the time they don't do the things that they promise, right? But that was a big win. If you follow Trump, he tests stuff all the time, right? Like the nicknames to people, the insults, and the things like that. And when he gets a big crowd reaction, that checks the box in his head. That's like his freaking crack. And when he said Gary Gensler out loud and getting rid of Gary Gensler, and the crowd went like absolutely bonkers, he was expecting to get that when he said certain other shit that the industry would never get behind, that if he actually understood the industry. Like, so he had crickets in certain things that he was expecting stuff. He said Gary Gensler, the crowd went absolutely bonkers. He repeated himself. If that becomes a talking point for him, just that thing alone, if he doesn't do the Bitcoin reserve, if whatever, that alone is huge for the industry. Right?
Well, I mean, and I know, like, so a really good friend of mine is Joe Rowitz over at Dragon Chain, right? And we haven't heard a lot from them, largely because a lot of their resources are tied up in defending an ongoing thing against the SEC, right? You say fire Gary Gensler to Joe Rowitz or a Dragon Chain holder, they don't care about the rest of it. They just want that guy dead, right? Like they would like to see him destitute, and they don't really care who does it.
But what's great is that, you know, even the most political people that are not, who are, you know, like me, would never vote for Trump for any reason, right? Those people, right, are a lot more rational. Like, look, we used to have we could have him back again if people want. We used to have what's his name? Now I'm just brain farting on his name. The Republican pro crypto, what are the majority whip? What's his name?
McCarthy?
No, not McCarthy. Now my brain is just farting. Now I feel like an ass because we've had him on. Senator, is it Senator?
Like there's
what's it?
It's rep. I'm pretty sure it's a rep.
Not, I want to say McHenry, but that was how we worked with him.
No, McHenry was the guy who grilled
Gensler
during the.
Why am I brain farting on this person we've had on the show a bunch of times? Anyway, I'll look him up in a minute, so I'm not just going through here. But no, now I have to look at it. But what I was going to say is we've had people come on, and you know, Republican people have been historically more pro crypto, at least, and talking about it publicly, right? And dang, like I'm just, how am I brain farting on him? Anyway, we've had him on, and he goes, everybody says this is a nonpartisan issue, right? They say it's a nonpartisan issue over and over and over again, and we just say it, but in this country, it's become a partisan thing because of the banks and institutions, right? It's really, really crazy.
Tom Emmer is who you were looking for.
Yes, Emmer. I would keep wanting to say Henry something. So Tom came on, says a nonpartisan issue, right? We could have Tom on. We could talk about this stuff and why he believes, you know, Trump is a better thing. But then we have there's Democratic political people. We had Scaramucci on. We didn't really talk politics with him because we were just talking crypto, but we go into politics. You know, there's guys like Mark Cuban who are never Trumpers also, but all those people have been screaming from the mountaintops, fire Gary Gensler, right? So this is a nonpartisan issue too, right? And the SEC has to change. Like it has to big time. They've really screwed up here. And the thing that's the biggest issue is that, you know, blame whoever the hell you want for our current recession and inflation and all that stuff. And I think pretty much across the board, almost all politicians are to blame because nobody.
Well, I don't think we can count on that changing regardless of who wins, right?
And, but here's the thing:
there's no promise to get rid of the Fed.
We're in this position, and we're driving innovation for new jobs out of our country, right? You know, that's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. And so, you know, Rankin, I know you kept wanting to say things, and I kept going down the rabbit hole, but
no, I forgot what I was going to say. No, it's, you know, I think RFK is good for crypto or for Bitcoin in general, right? Libertarian freedom of money, which we originally wanted. I think Trump is good for institutions adopting crypto, right? And the problem is those who are in crypto will benefit from institutions coming in, but it doesn't bring the freedom that we originally wanted with crypto.
Oh, maybe, right? There may be a white pill case here for the idea that institutions thinking they're winning while adopting an infrastructure that ostensibly can't be commandeered as easily.
From your mouth to God's ears, but at the end of the day, they manipulate it, and if they're holding custody for all of these people, it's going to be hard to combat like single, you know, actors who want to push against it, right?
This is why we're working on decentralizing the infrastructure, right? Because ultimately the problem is if you don't have decentralized infrastructure, you don't have a way to not have men with guns direct policy, right? And if you don't have that, then you don't really have the kind of decentralization that we dream about as sort of the goal.
I mean, we always say like we're the Trojan horse, right? We hope to be. I want to be. That's
yeah.
So I posted in the chat song a day.
Yeah.
And
I love that guy.
I
like most of what he does, but the idea of doing a song every single day like that, and he always does some really funny ones.
He's doing a song about suing the SEC.
Nice.
And his intention, as far as my understanding, is actually suing the SEC.
That's pretty awesome.
Good.
You know what? So just look him up on Twitter, Song a Day Man with 2 N's.
Yeah.
He's pretty awesome. So he's like literally pre-crypto and stuff, or pre him getting into crypto, he started writing a song every day. It was like his thing that he did, and he posted online, whatever. Mm-hmm. Then with crypto, you can buy the song every day, or like, you know, he auctions it off, and it's pretty awesome.
And if you
some of the stuff is ridiculous, some of the stuff is awesome.
He's also doing this NFT that's called Savatars, and it's free mint. It's on, well, except for the gas fee on base chain.
Which is like nothing,
but it's just it's just to show your support, you know, type of thing. And it's like, you know,
that's cool.
It's cool.
That's
I love what he does for our community. So it's awesome.
You know, what would be interesting is somebody like him, who's, you know, some of his songs are, even for me, they're so liberal that I go, oh man, like he takes certain things to a certain level. Somebody like him, I would bet a lot of money would be a never Trumper kind of person. I wonder how he feels right now too, because we're in this industry where there's so many people. Here's the thing though, again, going back to what we've said in the last few episodes about social media and how it can drive our industry, but also how it is a minority group of people in our industry that most of the people who own crypto do not know who any of these people are, right? Most of the people who own Bitcoin do not know who Max Kaiser is, right? Like, and most of them would probably throw up in their mouth if they're like, this is the guy, you know, that, you know, like whether I don't really have much against him other than the fact that, you know, he's just a wild and polarizing person, right? I've met him and he's super nice and all that. But like, all I'm saying is that I wonder how meaningful to the average person Trump being there is, we've seen data that says it's very meaningful to be pro crypto in this election, and being anti crypto will hurt you, because actually it was something like 20% of holders that were told that hold crypto were like, it was something like around 20% were Republican, around 20% were Democrat, and the rest were like undecided or independent, right? But it was slightly more Democrats than Republicans who hold crypto of the declared ones. It's like 21%, 19% or something like that. So that's also an insane thing, right? To know that 20% of the, I don't know, 90 million or so people in America that hold crypto consider themselves Democrats, but the Democrats are just like, talk about it like they're criminals, right? That's nutty. Like, that's absolutely insane.
Well, and that's a really good point too. Like, the framing of crypto is sort of troubling, even in the good language about it, right? Because not a lot of people yet see it as a new computing platform, and you know, they may hold the tokens and they may want the number to go up, but they don't know why. In many cases, or at least as far as I've seen. I don't know if that's true of a broader audience, but from what I've noticed, it's hard to find somebody who can tell you why the token they're holding has the potential to be great.
Yeah.
Digital gold, bro. Digital gold.
Because they sit on centralized exchanges. I mean, like, that's not crypto in my view. I mean, like,
right. I mean, you have to literally price in the inflation if you want to understand what the real price is.
Do you think that Trump would have been at that conference if it wasn't for centralized exchanges?
Probably not.
0% chance.
Sure.
Well, one. So here's two reasons.
On NFTs. That was
well, one, we wouldn't have the adoption of crypto and the pumps of NFTs if it wasn't for the onboarding for NFTs through the centralized exchanges. But I wasn't even going there when I thought about it. Yes, for adoption purposes, this industry would be 90% smaller probably if it wasn't for it. But actually, where I was going with that is the largest proponents, the largest fighters against the SEC, the largest donors to political campaigns have been the centralized exchanges, right?
True. True.
Or the people running them, right? Like the Winklevoss twins,
their eyes of the SEC in legal battles all the time. So yeah,
it makes perfect sense. But what's funny is that the fact that these, again, it's
had they not been it, he probably would have been at shitcoin instead, is my guess.
If
right?
What?
He would have been at shitcoin 2024 instead, right? Like
that would be.
That's
what?
That's where the multi-chainers are.
You know what? I hope especially if Ken Bozak is still the organizer of the shitcoin conference, but
why did you not have
because I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Ken. The first sitting or ex-U.S. president to speak at the shitcoin conference. Now that would be a historic moment. That then I might
Kamala had her chance.
She what she did, and there's on one hand, right? What I'm saying is,
could you imagine if Kamala had gone to the shitcoin conference instead of the Bitcoin one? Well, that
would be cool. That would have been a power move.
That would have been a power move.
That would have been such a play.
It could have, I
think what the meme token would do on that.
Okay.
Oh man.
Dude, my ape would be through the roof right now.
Right?
I'd maybe still be drinking my board vodka to celebrate. I don't know. But here's the thing. Do you think here's a question for you guys? Do you think she made the right move or the wrong move? And I'd like to get both your opinions for not coming to the Bitcoin conference.
Well, they wanted her in person. Like I think she was willing to do it like on video, but I don't think she was willing to fly there or something.
You think that they refused her if she was only going to do video?
I heard they made it a requirement that if she had to be in person.
I feel like that would be so many people would be talking about that right now because one, that's a power move by the Bitcoin conference to try to
Oh,
get
well,
her to go,
yeah.
but they should have last minute allowed her to do it virtually, because like that would have been a bigger historic thing for them, right?
Yeah.
You always, as a conference organizer, you push for the
I don't think
in-person.
anybody thinks that they're genuine about crypto, though. I mean, like, otherwise their policies wouldn't be the way it's been for the last 4 years.
Well, you gotta there's
course
a
not.
through line of maximalism in Bitcoin, right? Like at the conference level.
Yes, but having a
It's
president
definitely-
speak about Bitcoin is not a maximalism thing. It's not a libertarian thing. You're a fucking liar and an asshole if you say that that's a good thing. Like, it's a good thing to hear. Like,
Well, it
the
needs to
country's
be
influential, but to pretend like
Yeah.
it furthers the libertarian cause to have the president adopt Bitcoin is BS, because the more power the institutions have, the less it is, right? For this, it's not true. It's like the people who scream that they're libertarian, they love Bitcoin for libertarian reasons, and then their big thing against Biden is the border or something like that, right?
Right, and-
If you're a libertarian,
Well,
you don't
the
believe in
real
border at all.
cypherpunks probably aren't voting. Like
That's
me.
true. You wouldn't participate. You're probably a non-participant. And I understand that actually more than I understand my own position now, because I don't know who I would want to back. I don't want to back anyone.
For what it's worth, it's a long held position that predates this election, and
But
I view the ballot box as a sort of social contract signature that I don't submit to.
there's a great
for what it's worth.
I've always voted it and stuff. So I don't fully buy in, but I love a lot of anarchist artists and bands and things, and my favorite of all of them is Propagandhi, and they have a funny line. They always have the best one-liners in songs and stuff, and most of them are smarter than this. But just in one of the songs, they say, "If you're dumb enough to vote, you're fucking dumb enough to believe them." And but they're the true believer, hardcore anarchist.
Now that said, I love the resurgence of free speech in general that we're seeing here. Like to have a dyed in the wool anti-Trump fellow such as Alon here, who I love and respect very much, and David, we've just sort of met, but I love your hat. I think it's cool as fuck that you can come on here and you guys can talk, and we can all talk, and I can have like the third weirdo position.
Oh, it's
right,
all intentional, man.
that doesn't play, right? Like, this is fantastic, right? This is where we needed to be a while back. We needed to be able to talk to each other.
But here's where what I love about what you said is, it used to be, there's people go, oh, you don't talk politics at the dinner table, you don't talk about money at the dinner table. But at the end of the day, especially the way I was raised, I'm fighting with certain uncles, with cousins, whatever, at the dinner table, and then we stand up, we give each other a hug and a kiss, and we see each other next week. I can think he's a crazy nut job for having his views on guns or politics or Trump or whatever, but I still love him. I still think that he's a good person, right? But in politics, and it's the right way to play it if you just are focused on a single outcome, right? I want to win, and that's all that matters, and you're not actually caring about the rest, like about what you're talking about. You just want to win. You win by catering to single issue voters. You win by dividing people. And what they've made us feel is that the Democrats are the most liberal people in the whole entire world, like so insanely liberal. And then they've made us feel like the Republicans are the most conservative, scary, thing that the other side might feel. But the truth is, what actually happens is way down the middle, and actually should piss off both of those extreme sides.
And I can say things will piss off both at once.
Well, the thing that the extremes on both sides should be much more aligned actually than the middle, if you actually were extreme, right? Because if you're an extremely liberal person, you are more libertarian. You might not agree on certain parts of it, right? Or you might agree in bigger government, smaller government. But I think everyone agrees at this point in time that the government is just a huge sucking waste of money, and they can't do anything effectively, right? If I believed that we could, that the government could actually run certain systems, then my feelings would be totally different. But I don't believe that they're
right. Well, and
qualified
you
to do anything.
can already start to see some results come out of Argentina, actually, really interestingly, with Milei's thing. The numbers are starting to show that reducing government is increasing private sector spending and shooting up wages. And the fact that we really don't have an argument for
but we can't get we can't get to Argentina status before things change.
Well, that's true. I'm just making the third case, right? Like the idea that anybody can grab the one ring and do anything other than cast it into the fire is kind of misbegotten with respect to like people who are cypherpunk or hyper libertarian minded. The fight over incremental changes to the status quo in one direction or the other is meaningful. And I don't want to diminish the people who are fighting, right? Like for those little pieces, but it's not meaningful to somebody who wants to see transformative change in a direction we've never gone.
I want all of the people who are almost all of the people who are single issue voters. I want them to have those things that they want in their own way and in their own life and with their own family without dictating to the rest of the people what they're allowed to do and how they're allowed to do it. Right. But the politicians use us, and then don't actually do the things for them or do what they absolutely have to just to hold that power and gain that power. That's not good for our country, right? That's not.
Well, you got to wonder, is this just the nature of power?
Well, I guess, but that's still not good, right? So that gets back to, if we want to continue to have a democracy, we actually have to have one, right? And we actually have to have term limits and things that stop people from doing it, because nobody becomes the president because of the $400K a year salary that they get for being a president.
That's true.
They become the president for the power and the influence and the whatever. And wouldn't it be nice if we had a president who did it because they actually wanted to make things better versus what it is? That's a good meme, by the way, that Trump has been repeating over and over again, and his people have been.
Are you talking about people volunteering?
Well, I don't know if they need to volunteer to be president, but because I also don't necessarily want only people who can afford to be president or in power to be able to. There should be people who've chosen different lifestyles, or maybe I'm a farmer, right? And in certain
autocracy deserves a chance, man.
All I'm saying is that, like, one of the things that was, eye-opening in the, not eye-opening, but it's interesting, is all of the catering towards lower income and working class people from the Trump campaign, having the union people speak at the Republican convention, which a lot of people were really mad about. But the sort of meme that everybody is saying and repeating on like Fox News, which is like, Trump's not doing this because he wants to or he has to. He's doing it because he wants to change the country. He's a bazillionaire. He can afford to not be the president. At the same time, maybe not, because of what the Democrats are doing. He can't afford not to be the president because he'll be in jail, right? Or like this whole rabbit hole. I used to think the best silver lining of all of that was everything would unravel and there'll be a snake. The politicians will be a snake eating their own tail. It's kind of happening, but it's not happening fast enough, right?
Well, it's certainly the cathedral's eating its own tail, right? Like you've got the press having to eat a lot of the craziness that they've done, which regardless of which side of this we're on, we all have to find as kind of unforgivable with respect to, like, raise your hand if you had an inkling that there was a problem with Joe Biden before this year, right? Like, yes, everybody had an idea.
I would say things like that to my friends, and they would they would be pissed at me. And I go, look, I wouldn't want Joe Biden to babysit my kids, not because I think of anything other, like, anything bad, right, and like a creepy weird way. I'm just thinking I don't know if he can.
Usually we call what's done to this man elder abuse, right?
Can he run? Can he carry my kid down the stairs and put them in the car and take them to the hospital if they broke their arm or leg? Right? I don't know. Like that's a little, you know, but or just is he going to make the right decision in certain situations? If I said when I would say that to some of my friends, they'd be really mad at me. They'd be, what, is Trump better? I don't know. I don't think so, in my opinion. But
A
also,
coherent human being is probably a step up.
also it's bullshit too. Like the fact that even they pretend like, oh, it's too fast to do a proper primary and this and that. Only reason why a proper primary would have been too fast or whatever, even if you pretend like it was an overnight thing that you know happened and he spoke at that debate and oh shit, now we have to put together a primary. Dude, we all run businesses. We can get shit done. It would not be hard at all to get. I think, by the way, the primary is only actually decided by a few hundred people, I think.
Oh yeah, no, I
We
mean,
could do that shit.
Democrats have had a
call,
democracy
right?
problem for a long time.
Well, same with the. I think this country has had that problem.
Yeah, no, agreed.
Just Democrats,
agreed.
but again,
No, I'm literally referring to them directly only because right now we're seeing.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. But and by the way, you can argue with me. I'm probably wrong a lot of times. But what I'm saying is that in general, right, this idea that, oh, it's too last minute, we should all just gather around the vice president. I'm not against that either. If we actually had some primaries, she probably would kick the crap out of most people in a fast primary because she has the most experience at this point. Or
name recognition matters a lot.
And on name, look, that's the only reason why Trump won the first time around. It was all name recognition. Most people hated him, including most Republicans. But then he was their nominee because he got the numbers. And
well, I mean, and people were looking to put somebody who the establishment hated in the establishment's lap, right? Like that was probably a big part of it.
That's what they wanted, and he really drove a lot of people with the drain the swamp thing, which he never did, and all that stuff, which is again another one of those things of past actions. You know,
there are some interesting pieces of hopeful policy there. Like if we want to look at white pills, regardless of outcome. Which I like to look at white pills. Like
that's where I was getting at before. I think that all of this stuff it is making, if we're in the crypto, if we're thinking about crypto only, and we won't, if we were all single issue voters, right? I'm not a single issue voter, so I'm not ever going to go there. But what I'm saying is that for the industry, they've probably proven enough. On top of what was probably inevitable anyway, with all of these large financial institutions adopting this stuff, I think the Republicans have proven enough, or at least the industry, whatever, has proven enough that crypto is an important topic, is some people's single issue, which means that there needs to be more catering towards that industry, especially at a time. I think people got to drill down on this time in history where we have to create more jobs or keep them in this country. If you're focused on this country's economy, it's insane to send people away, right? It's insane to shut down businesses before they begin. And by the way, there's a nice, long, rich history of them shitting the bed completely by not regulating it, right? The only companies that they were nice to were the biggest scammers in our whole industry, right? Like FTX, right. You know, it's
it's a matter of rent seeking, right? Like they're going to respond to the people who are going to spend the most, trying to get them to respond to them, and that those monies come from places that have no scruple. It doesn't really matter where it comes from; it's who's paying. And typically, scammers aren't spending it on building.
Yep.
Yeah. Now that said, the one white pill I was talking about with a possibility of Donald Trump is actually an executive order that may come back. And everyone, little homework assignment: check out Executive Order 13835. That one actually has some potential to push the administrative state back, and it's interesting. That's that would be the only substantive piece that probably bears looking into for anybody who's wondering what might happen in the balance of power between the executive and the agencies that are administered by Congress. Now, sorry, bring things all policy heavy, but my background as a lawyer doesn't, like I can't let it go entirely. So when people start talking about draining the swamp, I start thinking about how would that work, and this is an interesting way that might work. So worth examining.
So what could you give us a little bit of your input?
So the biggest problem with trying to direct the administrative state to do anything at all as a president, right, is the idea that the accepted service doesn't have to listen to you. Your appointees can't fire anybody at the agency who's lower down than them that doesn't fall outside the accepted service. If you're an appointee, you're beholden to the president. If you're not really. So you don't really have to follow the orders of the commander in chief if you aren't part of this echelon of people who can be appointed or removed, right? This has been the case since James Garfield, basically, and weirdly enough, this rule came into place after he was effectively assassinated by a disgruntled former federal employee, and this is like a long time ago, ancient politics. But when you dig into it, you find out, literally the executive agencies can ignore the president for the most part with some of the lower down staff. And we've seen that happen before.
I mean,
not just past cycle, but like every cycle.
Well, some of that kind of thinking, right, is important to our country and the idea that the president doesn't have ultimate power, right? These checks and balances are supposed to exist for good reasons. You don't want the president to have ultimate power. You don't want the president to be able to make unilateral decisions without our consent. But
and that may be true. But if you're going to make promises that the administrative state is going to follow my orders and do this, then you have to be able to put some teeth to it if you're really going to make the case.
Yeah, but
again,
I don't believe he tried. Yeah, he didn't try that.
It was in place. It was in place from 2019 to 2021 when it was repealed by Biden. And now it won't return if Trump wins for at least 2 or 3 months because they put an extra process in place to stop 13385 from coming back into force. It's a really interesting piece of executive law. If you look into it from just a purely academic angle, it's fascinating. It's a new approach. So I don't know if it will work. I don't know if it's actually coming into force, so we don't know who's going to win. But it does pose some interesting, like just pure policy questions that abstract away from the horse race of the election a bit. So fascinating to dig into for folks who like to research things.
It's all these things are interesting to me, but at the end of the day, right, like going back to this, anything that is promised is probably not to be believed, wholeheartedly, right? Because we have no trust in any of these groups. We know they're inept when it comes to any kind of operations and things like that. And they kind of, sometimes it's a pretend, right? It's like a stupid or liar kind of thing. It's like let's say Brad Sherman and his stuff. Like, is he stupid or is he lying to us? He's probably lying to us. I don't think he's stupid and doesn't understand it, right?
I think he's smarter than most of them. I think he gets exactly what crypto is. I think he's appropriately alarmed.
He's on the Financial Services Committee, and until his donors, the largest financial institutions in the world, get on board, he has to, slow things down and blockade things.
Right.
But,
my point is merely
on one hand, it's diabolical. On the other hand, though, if you told him you actually have to create certain processes and certain things, I think that the government grinds to a halt when those things happen, and they're never effective, right?
Right.
The Democrats,
to our great advantages on
the Democrats pretending like they couldn't do a primary from today until November is bonkers, right? Because any one of us could make that happen. They could, but also some of them know they could, but most of them think they can't not because it's hard, it's because they're fucking inept. And I think that happens across the whole government. It's why even when there's presidents who try for it and movements for healthcare and things like that, why it never happens properly and just creates more corruption and
Well, and
bureaucracy is because they're inept. Like
it's not so much
it's,
the. I think that maybe sells the threat from these folks a little short, because really it's more like they're Enron style inept. They're inept in a way that is really erudite and really thoughtful and overly analytical and obsessed with data and overly thorough. Like they
well, no,
they
I think
literally
you know what?
analysis paralysis.
You're
themselves
right
to
that
death.
you're right that I'm taking away some credit from them by saying they're just stupid and don't know how to do it. They are not good at what they do, and as a collective group, they can't get anything done because there are big players at stake that will stop them because they're their biggest donors and they
Right.
have more power than a lot of the politicians do. And then the politicians who really want it have their hands tied by the current system, right? Like
Right, and
Bernie Sanders will never get any single thing he wants done in a meaningful way because there's too many. I don't even think there's too many opposing people. There's too many opposing interests. Like, and even if 90% of the United States voted for something, there's too many wealthy people in power that would be against it or that lose their power by certain things happening. But I always go back to like, but take small categories of it, right? I don't think there's a politician out there who is on the most extreme conservative side who doesn't believe that the United States should take care of our soldiers when they come back from war, right? And give them
right.
perfect
And
health.
the fact that they do it with the
right?
VA is the joke of the century, right? Like,
Exactly. That's the whole thing. Is literally 100% of politicians would agree that a person who comes back fighting for this country should have all of their healthcare taken care of in the best possible way, at least as good as the president of the United States
No.
gets his healthcare taken care of. There's no politician that would be against that.
well, and
But
the fact
look
that
at-
you're up against 5 years of administrative law judges to service connect somebody who got denied for reimbursement. I actually worked in administrative law, VA like type stuff as a side job in law school, and that advocacy is just a dead end, man. Like it's underfunded.
That's
It's crazy.
all. But that's all we have to look at and say out loud is if there is something that 100%, let's say 90% of politicians are behind and totally agree with, but they can't get that done even in a semi-respectable way.
Right.
It's just who's running this country.
Right, because men with guns can't be counted on to point them at people and make them do things that are in any way like constructive, right? Like you can stop things, you can destroy things, you can defeat things, you can end things, you can be a roadblock, but you can't make things. Not like that.
And
That's my opinion.
it's sad. I don't know. Whole thing's
Yeah.
sad.
Well, luckily they their own ineptitude is our weapon, right? Like it's our asymmetric advantage as people who build. We have no such barricades in front of us when we're at our best, and hopefully what we can do is we can get whatever the outcome is to shake towards getting these roadblocks out of the way.
Yeah, but things have to break in a much bigger sense for us to be able to rebuild properly, right? Or again we create competition, right? Think about this. Maybe 4 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, the banks that were super against crypto and Bitcoin, the ones who gave money to Elizabeth Warren and all the rest of the politicians, and all the Republicans too, who pushed policy and tried to block things from happening, who put in people like Gensler into the SEC who control him, before then and now, right? Maybe us building regardless globally has created a place where they now have to compete. And that was always the worst case scenario with banks. I doubt we're gonna, in a meaningful amount of time, maybe things will change and we'll be surprised, but will the whole kind of JP Morgan, biggest banks in the world kind of institution collapse and be replaced by
BOA
fair DAOs and union style ventures? Absolutely not.
BOA could make a great last ditch effort and be a great second also ran to MetaMask, right? Like they could add some new features that maybe the competition hasn't thought of. Who knows?
But here we are, right? We can hold USDC and earn. We can hold USDC and earn. We could stake our Ethereum. You could do all these things, and the more people that do it, the less people that are going to join Wells Fargo's group of
Yeah,
customers.
but the rates
earning-
have fallen in DeFi compared to where you can get in some.
Well, because interest rates have gone up other places too. So DeFi, you take your money out of DeFi when you can put it into the bank, but only a
DeFi
few
was
banks
built
do it.
in a low interest rate environment on a lot of aspects. So unless you're willing to take some risk,
But it's
hard to take
it's
some
cyclical. And what do all
Yeah.
politicians on both sides say? Rates are going to come down. We're going to
I
make
don't
houses affordable.
I
again.
don't believe it.
I don't believe.
I don't know if they can
anything they
anymore,
say.
though.
I don't think they can. I think what we're going to see is 40 and 50-year loans on mortgages,
Well,
and that's how they're going to solve this problem. It's not going to be low
More time-based transformation. Like,
Yes.
but that's just how they got into the trouble that they're in.
But until
more of the same.
until they put Bitcoin as a treasury item, they're going to continue pushing this down the road.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and as long as nobody's talking about the ticking time bomb over the Federal Reserve, then nobody's really talking about a solution.
Right.
If we're really talking about working everyday people, then like
we're going to
we've gotta
revolve
put
the
it.
debt around, but I don't think we ever planned to play it off, right?
We're-
Interestingly, no, I posted a link in the chat or on Twitter, right? That since June, that Bitcoin is kind of trading inversely to the Nasdaq.
For
which
the
is
first,
kinda
that
cool.
might be one of the first times ever it actually did
Right?
decorrelate. You know, that would
That's a
be
good
nice.
sign.
That would be a good
That is a
sign.
good sign.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
any divergence in things is a good sign. Any real attention it gets is a good sign.
Well, I first
Um,
saw that from Microsoft. I was looking at Microsoft this morning. Microsoft's been dropping while Bitcoin's been going up, and I was like, let's look at Nasdaq, and Nasdaq is more or less following Microsoft.
Right. I mean, and for people who've only had the choice of the blob or nothing, right? Like stuff in your mattress versus the blob, like that's a pretty good thing.
I had some good conversations this weekend with friends of mine who are not in the industry at all, who have never talked to me about crypto, about like why and stuff, and it was really interesting. It was.
So are you telling me
they
it's the
were-
top of the market now?
It might be the top, but it might be the beginning of something.
No.
Who really knows, right? But
Well, fun
but guys,
fact. One
we're-
fun fact about crypto, right? Before maybe this is
Yeah.
a good white pill to cap off on is anytime you've seen an all-time high be exceeded, the subsequent crypto winter, you've never seen the baseline price fall back below the all-time high in any subsequent run. So, and that trend remains unbroken. We haven't seen anything cross an all-time high yet, but should it? That's a number I'm going to be watching.
I'm not worried long term on a personal front, but I want everyone to win, and people are really short term, and it's a bummer. It's a bummer the economy we're in and everything that we're in. It's really messed up because we were screaming about it from the mountaintops, but it doesn't. Being right still sucks, right? And
Well,
so
especially after you've been posting on Facebook for over 4 years to all your friends that they should own some exposure to Bitcoin, and many of them still don't.
Or if they do, it's like it's already calculated out of the price in Coinbase inflation, right? Because they leave it on the SEX. So
yeah. All right, guys, we have to finish off. Any last words or things? You know what, everyone, we should have said more about this right off the bat, but we'll have we should have an episode just talking about infrastructure and scaling in crypto anyway, and we'll have Rivet on. Rivet.cloud is Greg's company. Full disclosure, I'm an investor in Rivet. So is David Blesnak, but they provide infrastructure especially on Ethereum and EVM chains. So go to rivet.cloud. They're, in my opinion, the best one. You'll get great rates, probably the best rates and the best free tier.
The best rates.
If you run an RPC or need infrastructure for your dApps. Also just go to dgb.vc. You'll see Rivet on there too. And if you're an early stage startup, that's come pitch us and hang with us.
Message me and say you heard about it here, and I will hook you guys up with some serious extra RPC credits, like not a non-trivial amount. Like consider 6 months of your operations just instantly covered.
Check out the alpha. Nice.
I love it. And we'll do a hang session, talk about Rivet. We got to jump to another one. Everyone, hope you're all doing great. I hope you realize that we love you and don't get alienated by our crazy ideas. Come tell us yours. I'll talk to you all soon. Peace.